there's a lot of work, a lot of technical work that's needed in order for a chatbot to have that human touch, which is kind of interesting. And so there's a massive opportunity for generative AI to help make that technical build that right now is super high for a human experience be a little bit more human. That's what we're seeing a massive potential for. So I think that's really interesting. And then the last part, again, when it comes to how do we leverage all this AI while keeping a sense of human nature, humanity into it, is all around as we're building this and working with our customers, right, to build this and managing their expectations and their hunger for different capabilities, is ensuring that we're as safe and responsible with AI as we can be.
Hey, Deanna, how are you doing?
Hi, Deliho, neighbor Rooney.
Hi, Leho. Isn't that's a Simpsons reference, right?
It's Flanders.
Flanders. Hi to ho, neighbors. How's things in your neck of the woods today? The kidlet being good, the weather treating you right, all that?
I'd say probably no to both of those.
No?
He's been fighting nap time and sleep last 24 hours, so that is not ideal. And the weather is like 80% humidity and 90 degrees out, so it's a
But
lose
yet
lose.
she's wearing a hoodie. I don't know how that all works out that way.
I'm telling you, there's a floor vent under my office desk, and it just chills me to the bone. So I've got a blanket on too. Don't judge.
What a granny podcast co-host here.
They don't call me Granny D for nothing.
Granny D. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about AI on the episode, and I was actually wondering, what's like the most, I know you use AI in your day-to-day in the work here with clients at Secret Sushi, but what's the most like ridiculously simple or goofy thing that you've leveraged AI to help you do? Is there anything that you've had it help you do outside of work or even in work, maybe, that was just kind of like, that was very trivial compared to, looking at
the intended
data
purpose.
or yeah. Do you have anything?
I love to make a nice custom Zoom background on AI and get really silly with it. Day-to-day recipes. I've got all these random foods in my kitchen, which I don't even know how they got there. I'm sure I bought them, but I don't know what to do with them. So AI is helpful for that. And anything else I just can't disclose here on the podcast.
You can't disclose.
Just kidding. Nothing fun like that.
No, you're not. And I'm trying to think if there was anything absolutely ridiculous. And I know at some point there probably was. I think like my son has he's 8.5 years old. He has a real like fascination with license plates and kind of registration stickers and all that stuff on license plates. Cause it was one of those things, right, where he's in the car and he's looking around and he can see everybody's license plates and realizes, oh, they're all different. And then wait, why is there a different color sticker with a different month and a different year? So he's super aware of it, to the point where we were like getting out of the car and walking through parking lots. And he's like, 2025, that's a rare one. That's a rare one. Because we're like now
that person pays their bills.
Yeah, that person actually registers their vehicle. We just actually were in Oregon over the last few days, and their license plates are quite different. And I was not really paying attention other than seeing that the way it was like the kind of customized colors and everything were quite different. But he was, of course, noticing that I think the way they do their stickers or something they don't have like a month and year on it. I don't know what it was, but he was just like, look at that. Wait, why does that one say 2028 and all that? So anyways, back to AI. One of the goofiest things was that my son tried using ChatGPT's ability to generate images to create like the ideal future registration sticker. Like he was trying to like it, and if you know, at least with the ever changing world of AI, things are getting better. And by the time somebody listens to this, God knows where the technology will end up being. But most of the image creation tools don't do a very good job at hands and like words and numbers. So you tell it like, hey, write California, and it's like gibberish and the numbers are all weird and all this. So he just kept going and didn't understand why he couldn't get what he expected, right? Like, hey, this is what technology does. If I have a question, go ask Alexa. If I've got a, something I want to learn, go to YouTube. So why is this thing got a limitation with this? So I've got like 3 or 4 versions of these weird California license plates that are all just gibberish. They look like some alien language on it. And that was fun, seeing him get more frustrated than less frustrated by me giving him something to help him imagine his. And I also shared with you the bedroom thing, right? Where I was asking him, what kind of bedroom would you like if you could just decorate the entire bedroom? And he was like, oh, I'd love one that's like a solar system, like a galaxy in a solar system. And I shared it on our Slack where he like, that was really awesome because there was no words or hands associated with that.
Yeah.
But there was like a really dark one, and like the bed sheets looked like they had planets in the galaxy and kind of things on the ceiling and all that. But that stuff is fun, and then trying to go to like Amazon or the store and make it actually reality is a whole nother level, right? When AI
bring those sticker
things.
Concepts to the BMV next time you go and see where you get.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother story. Like some folks, I don't know what their kids are waiting for at the doorstep, but he's waiting for like the registration for the car to be sent from the last, it's a registration sticker coming yet? No, we got to get the car smogged. Where's the sticker? I want to put that sticker on myself. I'm telling you.
He waits all year for that, Adam. You got to let him.
All year, at least for the next couple years until he moves on to, I don't know, something else.
Right.
But so on the theme of AI, we are talking to Buddy Waddington. And Buddy is the former head of insights and AI solutions at Sprinklr, which is an awesome social media tool. I mean, it goes well beyond social media, actually. It's super robust solution with lots and lots going on. And I got to talk with him as, again, the former insights and AI solutions at Sprinklr, and now the principal technologist at Sprinklr Insights and AI, where he's assisting global customers and partners with all things surrounding Sprinklr Insights Suite, the Insights Suite, and Sprinklr AI, which is a relatively new product. It's been around for, I don't know, at least the last year or so, and it continues to grow and be a big thing that Sprinklr is putting their resources behind. And the conversation with Buddy, I'm very thankful for that conversation because I didn't just get to talk to somebody in PR or marketing or whatever. Like, I want to actually talk to somebody who's like knee deep, waist deep, neck deep in this stuff. And Buddy's been instrumental in integrating AI into marketing and customer experiences. His experience meshing technology with marketing is been instrumental in what they're doing over there on this front. And in this episode, we're going to dissect like myths and realities of AI in marketing, talk about some ethical considerations and data usage, and see how AI can amplify the human elements of marketing and the craft of marketing. Deanna, I'm trying, my brain just went blank for a second there. So
this sounds like a good episode for Idris to listen to, though. See if he can get the most out of AI. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. Then I've just, well, maybe Idris will probably zone out at the very beginning, be like, this is not a 30-second YouTube short, Baba. I'm not going to listen to this any longer. I'm
right.
bored.
Where's Mr. Beast? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. If this episode started off with, we blew up
AI.
a dollar car and a $10 million car. Just wait until you see what happens at the end, and he would end up listening to it. But on that front, prepare to have your curiosity sparked and your marketing mindset expanded by listening to my conversation with Buddy Waddington. Buddy, I'm so excited to get the chance to talk with you. Thank you for joining me, sir. Where am I speaking to you from?
I'm calling in from Seattle.
From
out
Seattle.
here in the Pacific Northwest. Yep. How about yourself?
West Coaster, just like me. I'm out here in Silicon Valley. So same time zone, all good. I'm so happy that you were able to join and excited to talk about some of the AI stuff that's going on here. And AI obviously is a hot topic across the board, but I want to kind of dig into how you see it being applied to marketing and you and your role over at Sprinklr, how you all are looking at it and why you're putting resources into it and everything. I think the most important question for a lot of folks, especially marketers, is like, how is it going to impact what I'm doing? And is it just going to take over what I'm doing, or is it going to end up making me more productive? So I want to ask you first, can you briefly explain your role at Sprinklr and how it is related to the company's AI initiatives?
Yeah, you bet. So first things first, when it comes to Sprinklr and AI, there is an interchangeable, or not interchangeable, but a baked in essentially assumption. So Sprinklr essentially, right, which is a platform that helps deliver customer experience insights and interactions for enterprise brands. It is underpinned by AI capabilities. That's been our main focus for the past 9 years. And so essentially where my role fits in, I'm part of the solutions consulting organization, and specifically my team are a team of specialists that specialize specifically in our insights product suite and our AI capabilities across the platform. So essentially we serve as the chief liaisons between our amazing product team and then the whole business side of the organization. So all of our business oriented folks plus all of our customers. How that essentially fills in, right, when it comes to how we fit in with talking around our customers. It's central with what they really care about and how they can leverage AI to do more, especially when it comes to marketing, advertising, customer service, and then overarching customer engagement.
And so you mentioned this being something that's not necessarily a new function within Sprinklr, that has been around for a while. So technically speaking, you guys have had some element of machine learning behind the scenes that's been helping out with stuff, which is related but different than most of what people are hearing now related to the words generative AI, correct?
Yes, correct. So I've been specializing around AI pretty much my entire time here at Sprinklr. I've been here for just about 4 years, which is exciting, but we focus specifically on CX, or customer experience data driven AI capabilities. So when we say CX data, what we really mean is all of the fun, fuzzy human conversations that are either on Twitter or now X, right, or on Reddit, or in, usually your question 10 out of 10 in your survey, where you're not just putting bubbles of how favorable or not favorable are you, whatever the question is.
The open-ended
but
stuff.
That exactly that human-oriented conversation. We've built out thousands of models that underpin 50 different capabilities within our platform that are super specific. And so now, being an AI expert, right? AI experts already a Sprinklr, we're starting to then bring this incredible wave, right, of generative AI that's been built by all these incredible ecosystem partners to harness that broad potential with our focused AI capabilities and models that we've been investing in for years.
And you said, so there's been a number of years that Sprinklr's been investing into the space. And obviously now in a little bit, I want to talk about the new part of the product and what that means, especially amongst the entire ecosystem. But it sounds like you're also deep into the relationship aspect of what are the users using? Why are the users using the product? What are their use cases and things beyond the product, and how those should be brought back internally to the product team and so on. So, and you've made a conscious decision now to do something which is much more front facing. I believe, with it, as in comparison to just saying, like, we've got some intelligent capabilities to do X, Y, and Z behind the scenes with the AI. Now, along the same lines as a lot of other tool, and solution providers out there, it's become part of the product name in some shape or form. What is it that you're hearing from the folks, or have you been hearing from the folks that you're trying to serve in regards to, like, with the rise of AI marketing tools? How do you think the role of the marketer is actually evolving?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Essentially, what I've seen is an incredible shift and explosion into not just AI awareness, right? So customers and professionals and marketers being aware, not just being more interested or leaning in, but truly driving forth the requirement of saying, hey, I have to innovate. I know innovation now requires AI. How do I do it in the best way? And that's been incredible. Kind of double clicking down to what does that mean for marketers and how can AI help marketers overall? If I had to simplify in the best way, I would say that essentially AI, especially generative AI, is going to help and is already, we're seeing, helping marketers work smarter. It isn't so much just saving time. It definitely isn't, from my perspective, right? Having teams or roles be eliminated. It's really transforming how you spend your day. Right. I'm a little bit biased. My background is, I used to be a marketer and a tech nerd always, right? Just helping essentially marketers leverage emerging technology.
Guilty.
Okay, perfect. Yes. You and I understand, right? Exactly. So essentially, the now with generative AI, right? It's essentially you're walking into a new library. And it's the difference between walking to a library that has computers versus not has computers, right? So you can either look up books via the Dewey Decimal System, right? I remember going to the library at school and having to leverage that, versus now you can check in and you can even check out books, right? All within the computer. Generative AI is the same. So having folks come in and spend essentially having so much time on tedious tasks be taken care of, or at least supported via AI, then allows for more time to be spent on strategic tasks, right? Which is the highest value and best use of marketers' time overall.
Yeah, there's definitely a do more with less, increased productivity side of things. I've been saying early on that folks who are thinking of generative AI, especially as a means for just automatically writing something or automatically generating, images or something like that, they're really missing out on the potential for merging this sort of productivity tool in with their own expertise to do more with less and make things, make better things and bigger things in less time, or just simply save time, really, I think, which is awesome for everybody to do. I want to know, this is coincidentally come about around the same time that the term generative AI and AI in the current way nomenclature that people are using out there has really just heated up, that this product has been released. This isn't just a tool or a version of the tool that was released to appease the wave. There's some behavioral and expectational things that you guys have been paying attention to for some time, huh?
Yeah, 100%. There is a lot of hype and wave of AI going on right now, just especially since, late November when OpenAI launched ChatGPT. However, we've been really focused specifically when it comes to marketers on how we can help via AI over the past several years. We've actually looked back and seen what our main milestones have been year or two after year or two. And it started, from, even in the past, working with advertising capabilities, right? And having optimization capabilities, especially if any marketers have ran campaigns on digital channels or social channels, right? You see AI at work, understanding and investing in certain ad placements versus others based off of the output, right? That's reinforcement learning. It's a classic AI technique that helps marketers out today and previously. We've then at Sprinklr evolved into then focusing back in 2018 around, with all this conversation coming on online, right? And we have a capability that pulls in and listens to all these public conversations. Sure, we leverage AI to analyze that to help teams derive insight. But then a newer application was, okay, with all of this information coming through, we can statistically know kind of what is normal. And so then if something goes out of normal, especially before, a certain crisis or issue hits an
Mm-hmm.
executive's LinkedIn direct message or hits an editorial's headline, right? There might be an alerting capability that can happen that's based off of AI. And so we are really then focusing on, okay, how can we showcase the most relevant, urgent posts or messages that brand marketers, that corporate communicators might need to see or should see. It then went from, okay, alerting of a moment for interactivity, right, whether it be on the negative side or positive side, to then helping craft responses. So using not just natural language processing to understand what messages are worthwhile to analyze, but then saying, okay, with all these messages coming through, what could a response look like? And so we are then working with natural language generation in 2019 to help, for the first part, customer service centers and contact centers essentially respond to customers in a way that can be more efficient. Now with generative AI, that's bringing it all together when it comes to, okay, how can we leverage all this inbound information and public information to help marketers out at the creative briefing process, right? Of building out a strategy or a messaging framework, to creating content itself, creating and refining messages. And then after all this information is out, making sure that you're listening to the right types of conversations to measure and analyze your overall brand impact. And that's been wild, over the past 8.5 months.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm always paying attention to behaviors and expectations, and sometimes behaviors drive expectations, and sometimes expectations drive behaviors, and that's what's so interesting about, like you said, like last November, ChatGPT came out, and it wasn't that it was necessarily creating something that was earth-shatteringly different than every other company was doing. It's been bubbling up for quite some time, and even to your point, internally, you all were using machine learning in some shape or form. But a lot like other products or services, it was turned into something that could be easily consumed and understood by more than just the tech folks, the geeky folks like us that actually want to like use this and go, okay, well, wait, what is this? And just like I think the iPhone is one of those things. The internet, once you started to put a browser around it and make it a little bit more palatable, arguably maybe something like AOL did that back in the day at first, and then once folks got used to it and their training wheels and had their behaviors changed, then things could blossom from there. But that is, to me, what has happened with ChatGPT, and then ultimately, all these other folks have started to bolt on AI. But again, you guys have had it bubbling in the background. And one of the biggest reasons I wanted to talk to you all, because normally when I truthfully do the podcast here, I'm not normally talking about tools and stuff, because then it starts to feel a little like a commercial for the organization. But I really think, like Sprinklr, you guys, you all have a product that's pretty big, and it's fitting that sort of enterprise side of things, large organization. This is not necessarily a tool for mom and pops. And so I felt it was really, really interesting to see how you all kind of were going about developing this product that is not just meant to be an additional like bell and whistle or a shiny object inside the product, but really trying to solve the problems. And so I want to dive into the product a little bit more, and some of how you guys are dealing with things, and see this being used by marketers these days. I want to talk about you did mention a bit about the data, and about how right now there is a lot of data that's available inside the tool. And that's what you initially were saying, well, this is available. So what are some use cases that we can, look at for making better choices, being more productive with that data? And so one of the things you talked about was sort of paying attention and doing sort of notifications and raising things up to make it visible for the teams involved, which is really interesting, because it's a lot like cybersecurity companies these days are doing a lot of that, and other companies where they're just looking at what data is involved. And they're saying, this isn't something that normally one or a small group of human beings can really pay attention to without consuming an awful lot of time. If there's a threat that's happening, or there's some a system is down and they need to pay attention to, and to some extent, it sounds like that's what you're using a very similar premise to apply it towards, like customer experience and social media and kind of crisis management in that sense as well. And then the other side of it was the helping to assist the startup, at least generating a response, right?
Yep.
Is there any other use cases that you're seeing or that you're hoping to see become a more regular expectation from folks based on what you're seeing?
Yeah, great. That's a great thought. I do. I think that there's going to be more and more, I think based off of what you're describing, the expectation, right, driving the behavior, a bit of a push from everyday marketers, right? Whether they be already AI experts, whether they're just incredible creative strategists, right? Or even creatives, everything in between. Where we've seen and where we initially intended with our specific features, and not to talk about our features, but just to talk about what our assumptions were when it came to, okay, for marketers around the world, how should these new generative AI capabilities be positioned? Mm-hmm. And our perspective was, okay, let's make them as easily usable and frankly as unobtrusive as possible based off of existing rhythms and processes, right? Of course, we thought about within our platform, but overall, just how can we help, with one click or one quick move, enhance the briefing process or enhance the content creation process or the analysis process, right? Where I'm seeing a lot of, just within our initial capabilities that we built and put in front of customers, and our customers are using them, the feedback that we've received is wild. Instead of having folks be a little bit maybe resilient or suspect of AI capabilities, right, versus classic, hands on keyboard or classic human fully controlled capabilities or analysis, they're coming back to us with more. They're saying, hey, this is great. We're able to build out content faster than ever. But how do we imbue our brand book or our customers' brand guidelines into this AI model? And we're just like, whoa, you want that already? That's fantastic. So I say all of that to talk about how it seems like there's going to be push from brands and from marketers to have more AI first and AI forward capabilities, where instead of starting maybe with how I used to start a creative brief as an account planner in an agency where I would do qualitative research, I might actually want to go into a generative AI platform and leverage a bunch of prompt engineering, right? Or means of essentially placing in prompts to have that craft my first full version of my strategic brief, which is entirely putting, where I start and where I end, kind of flipping it on its head a bit. And so I think that's where we're seeing marketers themselves pushing for that type of technical change, which is kind of lovely to see.
Well, I think a little bit also what I've experienced and what you're feeling as well is so initially people are going, this is going to take my job. This is like, why are we doing this? Let's not mess things up. Part of it is a concern for jobs. Part of it is a concern for having to learn something new. And then, like you're saying, at least in your instance, in Sprinklr's instance, you've blended it in where it felt like it made sense within the product. And then as people start to use it and go, this is like making things a little bit easier, or this is saving me time, or I didn't know that this was possible, because technology, again, as sort of geeky folks as we are, the thing we learn is that with technology, often those who are not into technology don't often know like what is possible until they start to experience it. And so when they start to experience it, then they go, oh, I want some more. And not only do I want some more, but like I wasn't sure that it could do this. And now that I'm sure that it could do this thing, could it do that other thing? And then they're starting to bring the ideas to you all,
yes,
where that can get folded into the product, or if somebody's out there who's building a whole nother tool can go, oh yeah, that's not necessarily in their wheelhouse. We're not going to do that. But I found that there was this other tool that actually can help a lot with that. So I love hearing that. Now, how do you strike the balance still though between the kind of automation and the generative side of things and still sort of the human touch?
Oh, that's the golden question. And it is truly a balance to continuously strike, right? How do we ensure that these different AI capabilities have that touch of humanity in it? I think there's a few main critical considerations, if you will, to think about that. One, and this is for more features around that are internal, So there are some, AI-based capabilities that can be used that aren't directly interacting with the customer, right? It isn't just a response or piece of content that a consumer will see. Ensuring that those capabilities are incredibly intuitive and match the current hunger or frankly need for customization at the customer level. And that's what we're playing with right now and where we've been pleasantly surprised in certain, phases, which has been great. The second part is around for those customer experience or consumer experience capabilities like AI generated or AI influenced content. This is also huge when it comes to customer service, customer experiences, right? So not within the normal realm or the square head realm of marketers, but within the overall contact center where there's lots of customer engagement happening now and a lot of brand equity being driven, right, by the airlines, right, in the world of having amazing customer experience. That's such a driver for brand equity. Ensuring that those type of, if there is any AI based capabilities, chatbots is a massive thing. There's a lot of work, a lot of technical work that's needed in order for a chatbot to have that human touch, which is kind of interesting. And so there's a massive opportunity for generative AI to help make that technical build that right now is super high for a human experience be a little bit more human. That's what we're seeing a massive potential for. So I think that's really interesting. And then the last part, again, when it comes to how do we leverage all this AI while keeping a sense of human nature, humanity into it, is all around as we're building this and working with our customers, right, to build this and managing their expectations and their hunger for different capabilities is ensuring that we're as safe and responsible with AI as we can be, which I think is so important. It does bring up a lot of very complex and nuanced questions that have to be taken
what does that mean?
quite carefully.
I want to peel that back a little more. So it's safe and responsible. What does that mean?
Yeah, that means everything from how, what essentially capabilities are we building where AI is leveraging? What, essentially is AI helping understand? This is a great example, and just AI specific or AI general, not just with Sprinklr, but using AI to understand whether a message is positive, negative, or neutral. Super helpful for brand and marketing researchers. And relatively low stakes versus, say, a marketing team or marketing agency using AI to make HR hiring decisions, right? That's a pretty high stakes decision, depending on the AI models that are used and that spectrum of different capabilities. What teams built those models, what data was leveraged to train those models, those have to be as transparent and straightforward as possible. So there isn't any either lean towards a certain bias. Also, that the performance and the accuracy is relevant and resonant enough, so there doesn't have to be any like backstepping that has to happen. So there's that layer of just the AI models themselves. Then there's more on the who is involved with these AI capabilities. As Sprinklr, we have to do this all the time. We have companies all around the world using our AI models. So when we deliver and deploy these AI capabilities, we need to make sure that we're entirely transparent and have a spirit of partnership with our customers. So if there are already checks or balances or questions, they have the information needed on how we approach AI. And then with generative AI, right, where now this is the first time for just within Sprinklr's case, right, we're not just building homegrown AI, but we're actually working with trusted partners around the world like OpenAI, and we're merging our different AI capabilities together. There needs to make sure that there is holistic communication right across AI providers that we work with, ourselves, and our customers. So there's lots of layers on this. How can we be as trustful as possible? How can we work, with integrity as much as possible, and making sure that everyone in this ecosystem, right, is on board with our approach?
It's definitely a concern for folks, right? Privacy and data and data security, and you shared a lot there. I'm wondering, like, how do you think, sort of going beyond Sprinklr a little bit, if somebody's thinking about creating a product, how should they be looking at it? What you described as transparency, and it sounds like AI in this sense, especially when you have models that are really heavily utilizing. And I don't know if that's the case here with Sprinklr, but not only maybe first-party data, but some third-party stuff as well, and blending that all together. In this sense, you're dealing with customer data, right? So this isn't even about like internal organizational data, but it's all the human beings that you're engaging with and interacting with, and the data that goes along with that. And so does this, in comparison to maybe just machine learning in the past, or even maybe pre-machine learning, when it comes to how an organization like Sprinklr would leverage customer data or data like this, does it mean creating new policies and paradigms for sort of dealing with that?
Yeah, I think that's I'm so glad you asked that question. I think it has absolutely accelerated, and this is a good thing, the um, collaboration and transparency across the tech ecosystem when it comes to, I'll separate this out for now, but it's really all in the one sense, but appropriate and responsible use of AI and appropriate and responsible use of data. And I separate that because there's already been a focus on data, which has been fantastic, right? When it comes to, different data privacy regulation and just focus on data privacy and governance, right, across big tech. When GDPR in the EU was launched, there's a major focus on how does data be protected and how are people protected based off of what data can or can't be used in different tech services and offerings.
Yep.
That's been great, right? Sprinklr, amongst many tech companies, have had that main focus. With AI, right, it's a very private endeavor. And so it's been more of a voluntary, over the past few years, more of a voluntary effort. Sprinklr's had a responsible AI task force for a handful of years now, which has been great. I'm personally passionate about it. If I'm as much of a tech nerd, I'm also a big ethics nerd. Goes all the way back to college time for me. But now there's conversation in the same way that as data and data privacy became bigger and more of an important conversation, regulation, right, and different laws followed, we're seeing essentially the same type of story arc happening with use of AI models. And I think that's fantastic. And so over the past 8 months, the amount of conversations that customers have brought to me instead of me pushing into customers, right, as an ethics nerd, has totally shifted. And I think that's fantastic. That opens up a lot of crunchy, nuanced, hairy conversations. Let's be entirely real about that. And looking at risk, right? As people and companies innovate with generative AI, it brings, okay, how do we keep pace of innovation while making sure we don't have any conflict or lose pace when it comes to responsibility of AI and of data. And I think that's entirely important. Right now, the last thought I'll add is just the way that different companies now organize how they think of data privacy, data governance, AI usage, AI development, and the responsibility around that is that, we're starting to see groupings come together, which is great. But then as different AI, I think, regulation and different legal procedures and legal requirements come to fruition, we'll see kind of a cohesion with different thought leaders on how we should best be responsible with AI models.
There's a couple of thoughts that come to mind. One is what an exciting time for a marketing geek that has that likes ethics as well to be alive and be dealing with all that stuff together. I'm sure the last few years it's like, hey, this is really cool stuff, and then suddenly, like as of like November, December, you're just like, everybo's talking my language. This is
good stuff.
This is good stuff. Yes. It's all exciting. The other thing is thinking about, like, how does this change how marketers, like, it feels like when we had the whole GDPR thing happen and everybody was talking about, GDPR is coming up and everybody's got to deal with this, and which is ultimately a good thing. It's a pain in the butt to have to like go to websites always and clicking on things and all that. But it's ultimately a good thing. It's a good thing for marketers, even though some marketers would just love to have more data, even though it's not useful data. But to have data from people who are saying, sure, go ahead and take my information, but it has to be used in an ethical fashion, or you've got to disclose some things about how you're using this. It feels like this has got to be a bit of a natural extension of that in some ways, where now the average marketer is having to be much more aware of, well, if we're going to, whether it's use a tool or we're going to request something from somebody, or we're going to take information we have on you and we're going to utilize something like a ChatGPT in order to chew on this. We've got to actually pay attention now. It's not just, hey, we're using Microsoft Excel, and so we don't have to worry about any of the information that we're putting in here. We're actually taking this and we're putting it in a brain, kind of, to some extent, a very rudimentary brain, but one nonetheless that has we have to understand who's getting access to that, how's the data being used, so on and so forth, which goes hand in hand with the transparency aspect and other things that you were just describing.
Yeah, that's precisely it. And there is going to, to your point, it's a bit of a pain to craft these new scaffolds, right, of either checklists or scaffolds of behavior, or even of just new habits. In the same way that I was thinking while you're describing that, I was inspired to think about when I used to do math right at school by hand. Was that very hard and tedious? Yes. But was it incredibly approachable? Yeah. All I needed was a pen or pencil, right, and a pad, and I could do work. Definitely different. And going into, higher school, whenever I learned how to, build Excel, right, formulas in spreadsheets, there was a bit of a learning curve. But once I got past that learning curve, the entire possibilities and realm of possibilities for arithmetic I could accomplish was transformative, right? And I feel like we're feeling the same type of thing when it comes to AI models, where, we've seen an explosion in AI over the past 15 years just because of the amount of data and public data that's out there. Great. Now that we have these huge structures, not just with massive data sets, but with massive large language models, right, that different companies are providing, right, either in a paid structure or open source structure, there's now a new learning curve of saying, okay, how do we embrace these, but do it in a way that's responsible? Not just responsible to show our work, but responsible to show our work so people's data is taken care of, and that we do this in a responsible way where the outputs do have that responsible sense of humanity in them.
I love that. Well, so as somebody who is heading this up and working with the team at Sprinklr, as somebody who's a marketing and technology geek, like, where do you see how do you see AI shaping the future of marketing and customer experience, and where does Sprinklr AI fit into this, maybe a year or 2 years down the road?
Yeah, I think from a marketer's perspective, there is massive benefit to transform how marketers do their best work all the time. I think it starts off with some initial tools, right, to get faster at stuff, whether that be creating briefs faster, getting to initial customer insights faster, or getting to that final version of campaign content, right? Which right now copy is being leveraged all the time via services like ChatGPT, but we see already there's exploration of video, of images, right, with DALL-E and Midjourney and all these other capabilities that are incredible, right? Adobe Firefly, another one. But I think that's just the beginning, and that's just initial examples of what it really means for transformation of a modern marketer. I feel like what it really means is that a lot of tedious work will be able to be supported via AI, so creatives can do what they do best, right? And that's being incredibly creatively strategic. Or analysts, right, can look specifically not just at grouping findings, but really getting to the why, or even sifting through AI produced why and AI produced insights so they can get to action that much faster. And what we'll then see is essentially teams transforming to not just be really, really good at maybe creating content really quickly, but getting really, really good at prompting models in an accurate way so they can get to action, so they can get to insight, so they can get to customer connection in a much more fruitful way.
You mentioned a few of them a little bit on the side. Are there any tools that you think marketers should look at outside of Sprinklr that would just kind of give them really cool ideas of what's possible, or somebody that's doing something a little bit different?
Yeah, I think from a tool standpoint, where I think marketers should start is looking up prompt engineering. I think that's a great starting point for all marketers. Prompt engineering sounds like a very technical term, right? But it's actually super approachable. It's just understanding how to work with these models in a human-oriented way. From there, I think generally just thinking of AI as a new competitive advantage for your marketing team will then help and start putting essentially opportunities kind of in line, right? Whether you're a marketer that works for a large brand, whether you have broad ownership for a bit of a mid-size or smaller brand, or startup even, or if you're on the agency side, right, and work specifically on creating strategies or specifically on creating content, thinking of, okay, and now I have my head wrapped around how to prompt, engineer and build out prompts. Now with my curiosity, right, of being like, okay, generative AI, is it going to be a competitive advantage? How might I, help X, right, achieve essentially what my role is around? That's where I think marketers will be in a much more personally advantageous space to take advantage of AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there's something you use the word creativity around marketers, and I think that marketers don't often think about themselves necessarily as being creative, or maybe that they hand their creative off to somebody else instead. And I think the best marketers, even above average marketers, are actually constantly doing creative work. And so, to your point, it's often like looking at what is the mediocre, non-creative, repetitive stuff that can get done or just started, because oftentimes starting is the hard part. It's the act of sort of eventually roughing out like smoothing out the rough edges and making things, refining those things that you can focus on at that point, instead of doing all that other stuff. So again, this is not about just hitting a button and seeing something barfed out, because we also have heard a lot about if somebody thinks of ChatGPT and some of the other models, that they're producing very mediocre, kind of middle of the line things. And I've heard a handful of folks out there talk about, now is going to be the age where you'll see much more content being produced, because the average person, or even people that say that they're marketers but are just maybe initially creeping their way in because they think it suddenly has become easy due to the tools, they kind of hit a button and they generate something, and you'll see a lot more of this mediocre content. But if you take something that's sort of that mediocre baseline, mediocre meaning that it's something that you've prompt engineered to come out as good initially as you possibly can, and then from there you use your professional experience and know-how and expertise to refine it, to make it more appropriate for your specific use case, to merge it with a prompt, with some output from another source, those sorts of things, which is like what we're doing internally. We're trying to test this out and experiment it and say, how can we use this to do something that there's nobody in their right mind who would say, yeah, you're sure being lazy. You're not spending 3 weeks like looking through those. We just recently had a job opening and we had 325 applicants, and my COO who was working through it, I said, hey, have you thought about using ChatGPT and some plugins and code interpreter to do X, Y, and Z? And he said, no, what do you think? What should we do? And I showed him a couple things and did a little bit of prompts. And then he spent another couple hours doing a prompt. And it did take him a little chunk of time initially, but we were able to go through and create our own scoring mechanism for the candidates and so on, to get down from 300 something folks to about 70. And then ultimately see out of those 70 folks who was the top. And it was all done directly with code interpreter, which lets us upload files directly to ChatGPT, and within ChatGPT. That's just the tip of the iceberg for all this. But that's something like, why would we want to spend all that time doing that when we can instead be doing work for clients or whatever else we want to be doing?
Right. Right. And that's where I think there's a lot of space and really judicious decision-making that needs to happen of where do you go in to understand and put your best bet on where you should apply generative AI that makes the most sense for you. A lot of onus is on technology providers, right? Like Sprinklr, like many others, when it comes to how can we take this amazing broad generative AI capabilities and focus and harness it within a platform that gives guidance, right, and guardrails that make the most sense for our customers. But then the second piece, to your point, right, it just, it does take a little bit of work and time, but then with some folks, different marketers, to embrace generative AI and prompt engineering and different means to apply it, there then is an opening of opportunity to see how value can essentially be driven, right? And, there will be some, experiments and some learning to go through that, but that's where I think, in the same way we started this conversation with customers coming, to us, from my vantage point of being like, well, what about this or what about that? There's going to be more and more ideas that come out that will I think, start the transformation process of having marketing teams be reimagined a bit.
Well, as we wrap up, because I know we're at time, one thing is you were talking about learning prompt engineering, and LinkedIn Learning actually has a short course on prompt engineering. And so I recommend that folks go and check that out. I think it's less than a couple hours. The other thing is, it's really interesting, as you were talking about, folks, that feedback loop of there's all these products that are coming out, but the products are really in fairly early development that are utilizing this in the space, and they want to understand what people want. And to your point of, you get that feedback loop of people start using things and then they say, well, shoot, can we do this as well? Jump in there, because maybe your idea of how a product could evolve will help create something that is absolutely awesome for your particular use case. With that said, buddy, can you let folks know where to learn more about you, about Sprinklr and Sprinklr AI?
Yeah, you bet. Specifically for Sprinklr, you can go to our website. So www.sprinklr, that's SPRINKLR, so no E at the end, .com. We have a dedicated AI page where you can understand about our approach to AI, our AI capabilities, and our commitment to responsible AI. And then for folks that want to connect with me, you can go to LinkedIn, search up Buddy Waddington. It's a pretty funny name. I'm, not a clown. I'm not a clown, not an elf, not a drummer. So you can see, like, hey, there's this data nerd here that I can connect with and talk about AI. So those are a couple good spots to start from.
Awesome. I again, super appreciate you making the time. I want to have more geeky conversations in the future. But thanks for joining me.
You bet. Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate you having me.